Good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is Nationwide on the network service of the NTA. I'm Ruth, Aguele. Let's take you straight away to Zamfara State, where the government refutes the recently circulated story on the purported release of kidnapped GGSS Jangabe students, while anxiety has continued to rise amongst families of the abductees. Sadia Abubakar Tunau takes a look at the current mood in Jangabe community.
Aguele is one of the major districts in Talata Mafra local government area of Zamfara State, whose population is largely Hausa, with farming as their major occupation. The last week Friday abduction of more than 300 students at the only government girls' science secondary school in the area has thrown people in the town and environs, especially families of the abductees, in a serious state of mourning. Some parents of the abducted girls have relocated to the school as they wait anxiously for the release of their wards.
My children is 4, yes, but I found one of them, but the 3 of them have been police bandits. We wanted the governor of Zamfara State to help and try his best to rescue our children.
Under some situation, myself and my entire family of these children that have been abducted.
Some students of the college narrated how they narrowly escaped the abduction, as they also look forward to seeing the release of their colleagues soonest.
They came in a large number wearing military uniforms. They asked us to wake up and come out for morning prayer. When we hurriedly came out, they asked us to join a queue of students from some other hostels. So I managed to pull out of the queue and lay down in a nearby culvert and later sneak into the toilet. I came out after they had left. I am seriously terrified by the incident.
Meanwhile, Governor Bello Mohammed had, while receiving Zamfara State Council of Chiefs on a sympathy visit to Government House Gusau over the sad event, said significant progress has been made in the effort to safely rescue the abductees. Earlier, the Zamfara State Police Command had dispatched 2 surveillance helicopters to reinforce ground troops around the areas where the abducted girls are believed to have been held hostage. In Gusau, Sadia Abubakar Tunau, NTA News.
All right, we join our correspondent live in Jangabe, a location where the schoolgirls were abducted. Shehu Mohammed Detti, if you can hear me loud and clear, what can you tell us at this time?
All right, good afternoon, Ruth. Yes, I'm right. Calm as people are still going about their normal businesses. And as the parents of our abducted students await their arrival or release, last night there was an abduction of another man at a nearby village called Askawa village, not far away from Jangabe. I'm standing right beside me, alongside his wife. But the later release his wife when he protested that why are they taking him and his wife. They later release the wife and take him. As I'm speaking now, the whereabouts of the man that was kidnapped is yet to be known. And investigation we made this afternoon reveals that at the neighboring villages where the abductors are expected to have taken the girls, are saying that they are in hostage over 270.
And what about the security situation? What can you tell us about that? And no security personnel around there?
We actually don't know how far the negotiation is still going on, but this is what we found out. We equally found out that one Shitu Habibu Jangabe, whose niece is among the girls that were abducted, said he had a privileged information until 1 million naira is being paid per student. This is what is really happening here in Jangabe.
That's really serious, Chehu. I was asking earlier, I'm sure you didn't hear me. Were there no security personnel around the Jangabe? Because if we're hearing of such incidents happening around there by now, we should be expecting, or rather the community people should be expecting that security will be beefed up in that area. What did you notice?
Yeah, the security personnel are located close to the school that where the girls were abducted last Friday, but not within the villages, because we have not been to the villages to see whether there are security personnel around. but there are 2 outposts of security personnel close to the school that these students were abducted on Friday.
Okay, did you go to any of the families of the abducted schoolgirls? Did you visit any home?
We actually didn't visit any home, but we have the privilege of speaking with some of them. Even this morning, we spoke to one of the parents who expressed confidence that with the way the negotiation is going with the government and the abductors, they are quite sure that their daughters will be released. But we actually don't have the opportunity of going to any of the family house.
All right. Thank you very much, Shehu, for that update. We'll definitely keep in touch with you if anything should arise. Thank you. All right. Our correspondent Shehu Mohammed Detti giving a situation report at Jangabe. Let's look at more security issues. The need to prioritize security in remote rural areas as part of efforts to displace criminal elements occupying them has been re-echoed on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria. Well, the guests are unanimous that mass abductions in schools across Nigeria is a major challenge that must be tackled head-on with fusion of intelligence and security. Let's hear more from Lydia Sampson.
The guest, who described the recurring mass abductions and kidnapping for ransom as sad and embarrassing, lamented that the situation is a product of the absence of long-term security planning. They are, however, optimistic that the in-depth postmortem of past events can forestall a recurrence.
We need to call a spade a spade. Yes, we're in an emergency, we realize it, but unfortunately our actions do not speak that we're in an emergency. Governors have been speaking, I said it, we're in an era of public faux pas by governors. You've covered that extensively. It shouldn't be, but we haven't seen that type of realization of the emergency. So clearly, intelligence is there to be harvested.
What is Katsina State government doing about an in-depth study of that problem so that it can glean proper intelligence, proper information, refined information about what happened there, such that this can be prevented in future?
They again reiterated the need for identification of brains behind the planning, operations and execution to effectively nip the challenge from all angles.
That we're dealing more than just people who are out there and just look for ransom and are targeting school. They are targeting first and foremost the heart of what Northern Nigeria need to do to catch up with the rest of the world, which is education.
Even as an individual, there are things you can do. You are not completely powerless. There are precautionary measures you could take in planning your journey. If it is a private, if it's a commercial vehicle, right from where people are entering. No kidnapper attacks a place without surveillance.
They suggested a unified policy while also calling on security operatives to catch in on predictable failures to have the communities buy in and ownership of not just partnering government in security, but fishing out the identity of outlaws. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
Well, the Director General of the All Progressives Congress, Governors Forum Salihu Mohammed Lukman, has called on the federal government to allow the creation of state police in the wake of rising attacks on schools. In a statement, the DG says Nigeria's national situation in the area of security is no longer acceptable and challenged the political class and sub-national entities to complement efforts of the federal government to reduce mass poverty, which he described as the factory producing kidnappers, bandits and terrorists. The APC Governors Forum DG added that now is the right time to consider and implement the All Progressives Congress Committee on True Federalism, led by Governor Nasir El-Rufai, which has, among other things, recommended the creation of state police. Well, the time has come for the messages of peace, justice and unity to be emphasized and drummed into the fabrics of the society and citizenry if humanity is to surmount current challenges bedeviling it. Well, that was the take-home at the International Parliament for Safety, Peace and Justice during the swearing-in of the First Minister of Women Affairs in Africa. Momso Demian Dati captured the event.
My duties and exercise. Dr. Juanita Wendu, a PhD holder in Peace and Conflict Resolution, teacher, motivational speaker and preacher, taking oath of office as the First Minister for Women Affairs Africa on the platform of the International Parliament for Safety, Peace, Justice, United Nations.
We are going to look into various problems that faces African women. Violence, wars, rape, and a lot of them. Above all, hunger.
The place of peace in socio-economic and political development of any society is said to be top, and that explains why President Muhammadu Buhari, represented by the Senior Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, was quick to stress its position in nation building.
Our own national anthem, it says to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. The two go together. If we want peace, there must be justice.
The International Parliament for Safety, Peace and Justice has operated for over 34 years in Palimosi. It is an intergovernmental organization of states and has today parliamentary and diplomatic delegation in more than 130 nations.
Always preach forgiveness.
Special guests at the event who acknowledged the critical place of women in peace building are optimistic that with recent appointments of Nigerian women in key offices globally, there is hope for a better nation. Momso Damien Lati, NTA News.
The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation has ruled out any increment in the ex-depot price of petrol in March 2021. A statement by the Group General Manager, Group Public Affairs Division, Dr. Kenny Obatero, stated that the corporation was not contemplating any raise in the price of petrol in March in order not to jeopardize ongoing engagements with organized labor and other stakeholders on an acceptable framework that will not expose ordinary Nigerians to any hardship. NNPC also cautioned petroleum products marketers not to engage in arbitrary price increase or hoarding of petrol in order not to create artificial scarcity and unnecessary hardship for Nigerians. The corporation further added that it has enough stock of petrol to keep the nation well supplied for over 40 days and urged motorists to avoid panic buying. The statement called on relevant regulatory authorities to step up monitoring of the activities of marketers with a view to sanctioning those involved in products hoarding or arbitrary increase of palm price. Well, we saw queues on Monday morning surfaced at some petrol stations in the FCT and its environs. Hawagimba went round town for us and brought the situation report.
Some petrol stations in the nation's capital indicate changes in pump price from 162 to 166 naira per litre, while others are not selling, resulting to long queues at the few filling stations that are open for business in the Federal Capital Territory. Driving through Kubwa-Gwarimpa Expressway, our camera lens captured this long queue where motorists were scrambling to fill their tanks. The situation was not different as our camera lens captured this drama at the central area where some motorists are trying to shunt the queue, causing obstruction to others. For these residents who have been on queue since last night, they appeal to the authority to look into the situation.
I came here for over 4 hours. I've been waiting for fuel, to buy fuel. They say from the news you hear this morning, they say you should not panic. That they fear is because of the fuel price. They should resolve it.
It's a country that has all the resources. Why should we be going through this situation?
They, however, solicit government quick intervention to end fuel scarcity that motorists and other residents are presently coping with. Hawagimba, NTA News.
A look at education. All admissions in Nigeria's tertiary institutions for the 2020-2021 academic session would end by 15th June 2021. The decision was collectively taken at a virtual meeting with heads of tertiary institutions in the country. Registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, said the meeting with the institutions was aimed at knowing the level they had reached on the 2020-2021 admissions scale and forestall an endless admission regime generated by a series of disruptions to daily life occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic. The meeting is expected to enable the board to put necessary machinery, in place for the 2021-2022 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination and Direct Entry Registration exercise. Professor Oloyede also informed the gathering that only 30% of institutions had started admissions into the 2020-2021 academic session. Hence, the need to collectively decide when to close the 2020-2021 admission exercise. After an insightful deliberation, members collectively agreed that all public universities are expected to finish their admissions on or before 15th May 2021, while the private universities and all innovation enterprise institutions, polytechnics and colleges of education would complete theirs at the agreed date of 15th June 2021. Professor Oloyede reiterated that the chosen deadlines remained sacrosanct and binding on all institutions, as the board would not tolerate any breaches of the collective decision reached at the meeting. He said the board would announce in a week's time the commencement date for the sale of application documents for the 2021-2022 academic session. On the global scene, the World Trade Organization's first female and first African Director General, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, began work on Monday, ending a 6-month leadership void at the Global Trade Watchdog. The first day of the former Finance and Foreign Affairs Minister at the helm of the WTO coincides with a meeting of its top decision-making body, the General Council, after a long campaign that was derailed in the late stages by a Trump administration veto. The 66-year-old Nigerian was finally confirmed as WTO boss last month. Dr. Okonjo-Iweala had pledged to forget business as usual in the body which is struggling to strike new deals and whose arbitration functions are paralyzed. Its 164 member states will discuss topics such as trade, rules on COVID-19 vaccine distribution. It's time we head to Lagos. Let's find out what's happening there, and Michael is set to guide us.
Thank you, Ruth. The Federal Ministry of Works and Housing has begun the reclamation of the right-of-way at Ladipo Market from traders that have taken over the roads along the Apapa-Oshodi-Oworoshonki Expressway in Lagos. Dr. Ogunyemi reports that the move follows a series of eviction notices ignored by the unions.
On the 14th of January 2021, Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, visited Lagos to inspect the damaged Airport Link Bridge following a tanker fire incident. The minister, during the visit, issued a 2-week notice to traders illegally occupying the right-of-way at Ladipo along the Apapa-Oshodi-Oworoshonki Expressway. 6 weeks after, this enforcement became necessary following a series of meetings between leadership of the market unions and the Federal Controller of Works to get them to comply with yet another eviction notice issued by the Lagos State Task Force, which expired on the 10th of February.
And that's why the task force was invited to come here and do the clearing of all the shanties so that we will be able to do our work on the service lane as well as to beautify the right-of-way.
To ensure compliance, the contractors have mobilized to site to erect barriers. The Federal Controller of Works urges anyone or organizations interested in beautifying the right-of-way located close to their businesses to seek approval from the ministry. In Lagos, Dotun Ogunyemi, NTA News.
The total reopening of the third mainland bridge has brought with it a new lease of life for residents of Lagos, with motorists now enjoying a smoother ride. Dr. Ogunyemi again reports on the current mode of motorists who had to contend with the challenges of partial closure.
For more than 24 hours after its full reopening, the Third Mainland Bridge has resumed its role as one of the busiest across the country, and the difference can only be felt enjoying a smooth ride. Being a weekend, traffic is light, which means there is the temptation to drive fast, throwing caution to the wind. We were quickly stopped in our lanes like other vehicles as we slowed down. In front of us was an accident scene, and the victim, Otinel Ikpibako, who was still recovering from the